All right. All right. So looks like it's 2:01 for me. We are now live on YouTube. Um, thank you, Angela, for confirming that. My video for some reason not working on here, but I was being seen on YouTube. So, but that's all right. I'm muting myself anyways after we begin. So, um, basically, to everybody, thank you for joining us. We're gonna start our webinar in a second. It's more of a roundtable discussion. It's called Rethinking Loyalty in 2021. I'm going to introduce our president and CEO at Sandy Alexander, Mike Graff, who's going to just do a 1-minute quick overview, and then he's going to introduce the rest of our panelists. So I'll turn it over to you, Mike, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate everyone joining us today. We hope that you guys leave this hour much more educated and entertained than when you came in. I do want to personally thank Jeff Barber and Betsy Davis from Sandy for putting this together and coordinating this. It was no small effort. We have two great guest speakers today, and about that in a moment. I just again want to thank everyone for joining and thank all of our clients for the support. We certainly all have been looking forward to what's going to happen past this episode of this pandemic. And we've all been focused on what is going to be the next chapter for us in our own worlds. Certainly, loyalty is a very important aspect of marketing to all of our clients, and frankly, all business is built on loyalty. So this is really an important topic that is critical to a lot of our successes going forward. Just a quick note, the company has been busy over the last year. We've done an awful lot of things. We're looking forward to a very good 2021. We've come through this thing in pretty good shape. We have just invested a little over $5 million in new equipment that will be coming online probably by the middle of the summer. And we are excited about a lot of our new offerings and things that we've been working on, of which you'll be hearing an awful lot of in the next couple of months. But we thank you again for your support. Without our clients, we would be nowhere. So again, thank you. And with that, I'd like to introduce our guest panel today. First, we have Sandra Goudet. Sandra is President and CEO of Customer Communications Group. She's also publisher of Customer.com. She's coming to us today from beautiful Denver, Colorado. Her team works with Fortune 200 clienteles, designing and executing unique data-driven customer-centric initiatives that help build and retain clients for her customers. She comes at it with a very experienced background, and we're very anxious to hear what she has to offer and share with us. And Joe Manos, who the company has known for many, many years. Joe's been in the business for 25, 30 years. He's executive management. He's working with the industry leading companies providing integrated business solutions for the graphic art community and different corporate enterprise clients. For the last 6 years, he's been responsible for the successful launch and growth of many web-based variable data printing solution programs. A wealth of knowledge. We know both of these folks have taken time out of their day, and we look forward to hearing from them. So without any further ado, I'll hand it off to Sandra.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate the opportunity to share and have us all kind of collaborate on rethinking loyalty in 2021. It's been a crazy year, I know, for all of us. So I'm excited to be able to share some ideas I'm seeing and some best practice I'm beginning to see out of the retail community.
So I'll kick it off and actually going to be mediating. I appreciate, again, to Mike's point, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And Sandra and Joe, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to help. And our objective obviously is to hopefully have everybody leave this conversation with a couple of nuggets and insights that you can take back to your teams as everybody's kind of rethinking what 2021 and the future is going to look like. And just to also touch on, Mike missed that Joe was with Mindfire Inc., a software application company that again supports us on a lot of our marketing automation campaigns that we support, and he supports those clients with it as well. So let's just get right to it. We did have some clients that were great enough to send some questions, so we'll try to cover as many of those as we can. But I would love to ask, we have chat available for everybody that's joining us. So if things that we start talking about generate a thought or a question, please do send that in chat. We would love to have more engagement from the attendees today versus just hearing us, hearing ourselves talk the whole time. So please chime in as necessary. So let's get going. So rethinking loyalty in 2021, I think all of us are rethinking a lot of things as we head into this new year, but did just want to start at the very top of what you guys are seeing from your clients already this year, the end of last year, and trends and topics that you're hearing consistently from those that are rethinking their loyalty programs this year. Sandra, I'll start with you.
Great. I'm definitely seeing a lot of retailers, particularly in certain sub-retail groups that are rethinking their business. So many of them were having to kind of be forced into more of an online-only environment. A lot of the customers that they had before have not returned just yet. And so a lot of them are kind of doing a reset and just a ground zero of who are our customers now? How do we bring back our best customers from before? How do we re-engage them once things begin to turn back to normal? So there's a lot of that, just kind of rethinking where they are. A lot of them are starting with remapping their customer journeys, which obviously has drastically changed. We just completed a survey of 2 million consumers in the United States and definitely saw a big lean in towards online retail. On the good news part, though, and I just looked at the data this morning, a lot of the respondents who said that they have particular retailers that they like to shop exclusively still are naming those same retailers this year over early last year. The last time we did the survey was in January of 2020. So that I think that's a bit of good news, but most of them are saying retailers are saying, what do we do now and how do we re-engage customers post-COVID? And I think there's some great opportunities there to do so. I think consumers have a lot of built up, kind of cooped up feeling of wanting to get out. And as the country reopens, and it's going to obviously be different in different regions, so I think we need to plan accordingly. Consumers are going to be expecting a fun experience in store. And so I think we need to be prepared for that.
And really quick, you talk about people needing to rethink the customer journey and the mapping. What does that entail, or what should people be thinking about from a remapping of that journey?
Sure. I think, for those retailers that have undergone that exercise, you're kind of thinking of the top 20 journeys a customer might take as they see an ad, they see a banner ad online, they come to your website, then they go into the store, those kinds of things. I think it's a good time now to take a fresh look at those journeys and maybe update them, perhaps even add some new ones. Especially, as I said before, more consumers are leaning in onto the online environment than ever before. So making sure that we have a good, seamless, and to the greatest extent possible, frictionless journey for our consumers.
And Joe, what about you? What are you guys seeing from the tech side and other areas?
Yeah, thank you. So there's a lot of dynamic changes taking place, and it really depends on the brand and what their focus areas are. But first and foremost, there's a shift, obviously, and a lot of the brands are taking a look at what used to work is no longer as effective. So from a marketing standpoint, we know that today's customers are available on 7 different channels and 5 devices in a 24-hour period. So getting highly optimized and personalized to the device of preference and where your loyal customers are with highly personalized and optimized offers, we've seen a lot of focus on that. In fact, we've seen some major pivots from some brands, like this one example for Bevmo, for anybody that shops Bevmo. Traditionally, they did inserts in the newspaper with offers and different components. But their pivot was to create a 12-page flyer of most popular ordered goods, have a special offer at $10 off. And oh, by the way, if you phone in your order and place it, they deliver it in 2 hours. So a huge pivot that made it very easy for their and this is a loyalty customer program, to place orders very, very effectively. So that's a great example of pivoting. I think the other thing that I've seen is, while rather than appealing to the masses, really getting highly optimized to your most loyal folks that probably weren't as heavily impacted by COVID, loss of job, loss of income, as some of the other customers. And if you've got great data, you have the ability to make that pivot and start to target a very specific segment of your brand most loyal customers to ensure that they continue to spend. Because the one dynamic we have seen, because I've got some brands that are growing off the charts, the one dynamic we have seen is that there are a lot of people like myself in California. We've been locked up since March of last year. I haven't taken my wife to dinner in a sit-down restaurant since literally my birthday, March 13th, 2020. Well, guess what? There's a lot of disposable income that we aren't spending on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that we will spend if the right brand approaches us with something of great interest. It goes to the online point that Sandra made as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned when we were prepping for this that people are sitting on a gold mine, which I loved. But talk a little bit about that. We threw around some ideas of what that could look like and things to consider when we do have that additional spend. What ideas would you guys have to be able to help encourage people to still engage in the rewards programs that may not have been able to in 2020 and now?
I think one thing is to be intentional about who you promote back into the brand. So knowing who your very best customers are, and if they haven't engaged with you, thinking through a special offer to bring them back in. I'm also seeing some retailers extend expiration dates on rewards, extend and maybe grace period the points expiration, just again to pull people back in. A lot of folks are, like I said before, thinking of that store environment and what they want it to be like when people begin to come back, and are thinking about things like special events, tastings, whatever is appropriate in your setting, just to make that in-store environment more inviting.
Yeah, and with that in mind, I've got one of my best friends. His wife used to love to go shop, but now because of a couple loyalty programs that have presented her an opportunity to save and have the order waiting for her so she doesn't have to step into the store. Everyone's trying to do that, but some of the brands are communicating that opportunity much better. So they're getting a bigger chunk of the spend because of the way they've communicated. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. You show up, pick up your order, several $100s later, you're driving away. The other thing, interestingly, Dick's Sporting Goods, which I spent a lot of money there for friends and myself, their loyalty program, you get points for every dollar you spend, but I just got an offer the other day to get 3 times the points for things that I regularly purchase if I make that purchase within a specific period of time. So those innovative types of approaches with 3x points, and you can still use your coupon for dollars off, that incites purchases now rather than when Joe would have made that purchase of another 2 dozen golf balls, a new driver, whatever. Those types of incentives bring your customers back to the store or the online shopping site with greater frequency and sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of extending the expiration, and Joe, we were talking about this as well. of getting those alerts when your points are about to expire, because
Yeah.
never fails. Every time I'm ready to go buy a new pair of shoes, my coupon expired the week before and I totally missed it and missed my opportunity. So I think using those types of communications to let us know, I know would encourage a lot of us to get out and use them. One of the questions that came from one of the attendees is asking specifically about digital opportunities. And we talked some as well about email executions and how that's changing a little bit. So we'd love to hear from you guys in regards to what digital opportunities are out there that might be different than pre-COVID, and any kind of just changes and pivots, as you mentioned, Joe, that we might be seeing from a digital usage.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first, Sandra?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously that's a big part of our offering in our technology. So I've seen a lot of dynamic changes. One of the interesting comments that I often hear from some corporate marketers is, well, my target audience isn't on Facebook or Instagram, depending on the product or offering. And what's interesting is often these are anecdotal feelings and they aren't supported by data. And so, number one, you need to test those different channels with really effective, highly optimized ads. Number two, from a pivoting standpoint, the types of offers and the frequency of offers in the social media realm has changed dramatically since COVID has hit. The other interesting point is you have to make it super easy for folks to connect and take advantage of what you're linking them to. And I see some major failures from a technology standpoint there. And the final point is email. Guess what? Everyone's email inbox, whether it's personal or business, has increased 2 or 3x since COVID began. Why? Well, because a lot of us aren't in our offices, we're working from homes. And so guess what? Email went up exponentially like that. So there's a big missing link there, getting matched back to home addresses for some folks. And again, direct mail has become a critical component in addition to the digital play. So while digital is super important, find a way to link your digital to the direct mail component. We're seeing a lot of programs doing that.
So you mentioned yesterday about email and the testing, doing those smaller releases to be able to ensure. Can you talk a little bit about that and that major shift because of the email frequency that's in the market?
In the email world today, with Google and all the fine ISPs out there, the algorithms and spam traps have gone up exponentially. And in the past, when we were dropping programs for customers of a couple 100,000 emails, we just drop them in 4 waves of 50,000, 50,000, 50,000. But in today's world, with all these new dynamics, even with highly optimized and opted in target lists, we're doing a warm-up process now that could start with as little as 400, 800, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 before we start to do larger chunks. Because what you're trying to get is engagement of your recipients, because if you're not, then it can be viewed negatively and impact your reputation and the deliverability aspects of email. Now, having said that, let me say that more so than ever, your subject lines and your offers matter because of the fatigue, I call it COVID fatigue, of folks getting so many emails and so many offers coming at them that they just delete. So those offers and those subject lines really matter in today's world.
Great. Thank you. Sandra, what about from your perspective?
Obviously technology supporting loyalty isn't anything new. I think there's some opportunities though coming out of COVID. We were talking yesterday about people are much more comfortable using QR codes now for those of us that have been allowed to go to restaurants. I'm sorry, Joe. But at a lower capacity and with all the other things and requirements in place, most of the time they're not handing you a menu. They're handing you, they're showing you a QR code sign. So a lot more consumers, I think, have gotten comfortable with that. So we can use that, for instance, in in-store loyalty enrollment, and they just scan the code. It takes them right to a website. They answer a couple of questions, and they're already in. Taking some time out of at the point of sale that might have had to occur with the associate signing someone up. Um, Rewards also can be offered that way. I think looking at loyalty applications that are a part of the maybe the functionality of your overall app, but having a loyalty component is a great way to just open up another channel to continue the conversation with those folks. The other thing I started thinking about that question and wondering too, a lot of retailers that I work with have more online customers than ever before, and they may be online only for quite a while. So I think there's an opportunity to rethink our loyalty benefits, and are we really beyond free shipping and some of the kind of the classic things? Are we doing things like offering the opportunity to maybe have an exclusive, access to a preview of products? Maybe a personal shopper service that's online, those kinds of things. I think there's some opportunity for all of that.
Yeah,
Can I
speaking of
jump
QR
on
codes,
that,
yeah, go ahead.
that QR code point? Yeah, because I've heard from customers, well, QR codes are passe. Those didn't work years ago. Well, guess what? The manufacturers of these devices, you don't need an app. You just take a picture now. So think about this for a minute. When the NBA, the PGA, NFL, and other advertisers on TV are using QR codes, guess what? They're mainstream again, and they're uber easy to use. Also, for the retailers, this direct mail piece would have been 10 times more effective if there was a QR code on it, where I could have just snapped a shot at it, gone right to my cart, added what I wanted, and checked out all in one step. So why use the phone when I could take a picture and give them a purchase all in one easy step? So if you're a retailer, you need to start thinking about how to get a larger percentage of your customers using this device when they engage with you. Also, I got a text reminder from a loyalty program the other day, going back to your point on the Sandy, on the points expiring. So again, Betsy, I think that's a great example of that pivoting and the innovation that all these loyalty programs have to start taking a bigger step on.
Another thing I'm seeing too is utilizing personalized video technology in embedding that into your email. And just think about what a great impact you could have in your loyalty welcome email, or you've just moved up a tier email to say, Betsy, Joe, you've made it and now you have earned your first reward, and just adding that extra high touch to your email and helping it stand out in the inbox.
Yeah. I was going to speak to the QR codes, Joe, to your point. We all thought it was going to be kind of a goner. And we actually, as Mike mentioned, we did a lot of investment on the technology side in 2020 based on everybody's changing needs. And QR ended up being a huge component of that, obviously for our dining clients, but also our retailers asking us how they can better use QR codes for in-store engagement, direct mail engagement, things like that. So we've actually invested money in a QR code platform, which I didn't anticipate we would be talking about that again if you would have asked me 3 years ago. You mentioned personalization on the video. How else are you seeing personalization becoming even more prevalent and more important right now, or how people are executing more personalization, whether it's print or digital communications?
I'll jump in first. So from the marketing side, again, I'll take it back to the data. And obviously all the brands have great data on purchase history. So when we start to see trends developing, and with the algorithms, we can go ahead and say, based on past purchase behavior, this is probably the time that Joe's thinking about a new driver. So let's go ahead and make him an offer for coming in and getting sized up for a new driver. In addition to that, clothes, we can see purchase patterns. And again, there's a new line coming out. So again, that highly optimized behavior tracking and aligning your offers along with the coupons and making them aware of very specific personal choices that they can make now, and then teeing them up for them. With the artificial intelligence, which I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today, but with the use of that, you've already seen amazing use cases by probably some of the brands on today's call, and that's only the beginning. When you start to have that as the leading indicator and educator of here's your choices, and then click here to go ahead and take advantage of it. That's kind of the next generation.
Andrew, anything to add?
That was a great answer. So the only thing I would add is we have an opportunity to also just continually remind customers of what their status is within the program. And I'm sure that most of the folks that are participating in this webinar are already doing that, but it is one of the things that I find that's often missed. When a retailer has a program that's just not hitting KPIs, I almost always find that they have either failed to continually train their associates who have now turned over from the launch, and they don't have a strong enough training program on the loyalty program, as well as just letting customers know how close they are to rewards, when points are about to expire, if you have a points program, and just overall status. That also has an unintended benefit because customers don't check their loyalty status themselves very often, and they are opening themselves up for loyalty fraud. That's one of the fastest ways, easiest ways for bad guys to get into your account, is knowing that you're not going to be checking it and you have an easy password. So it serves a lot of purposes.
Can I add a polar opposite point on that? Because that's such a wonderful point, Sandra. Let me also talk about the downside to abusing one of your most loyal customers. I was caring for my mom after her stroke for 2 years, her primary caregiver, in addition to online meetings like this. And one of the leading hotel chains, because I was inactive for 2 years because I couldn't travel because I was caring for my mom, wiped out 350,000 points in my loyalty program. Now think about how much I spent with that brand for 350,000 points. And I reached out to the chief customer officer and through LinkedIn and a couple other channels said, you know how many years I developed these points and you're wiping them out because I've been caring for my mom for the last 2 years and I didn't see an email? Are you serious? And oh, by the way, my team, we typically stay at your hotel, but if we can't remedy this, we won't be doing that anymore. So future income. But be careful about your loyalty programs, that you don't have such a punitive program that you can't make allowances for very human, personal issues that may have prevented someone from following the rules. That's kind of not why we're here to talk about, but I think for anybody that's got a brand and a loyalty program, be aware of that.
Well, and obviously we're in a time where there's a lot of those circumstances from the past year. And so to our point again about extending points and extending expirations and things like that come into play. So it's interesting. We're obviously from Sandy's side engaged with print. And that was actually one of the other questions from one of the attendees was, how we're seeing print involved. And I wanted to speak on really quickly. We were talking about personalization. What we've already seen is a trend changing, and I'd be curious to hear from you guys as well. Our retailers that were doing more catalog circulations are reducing those and are doing more frequent communications via self-mail, and also to the point of personalization, just trying to be more on target, right message, right time, and more frequent communications. And obviously loyalty programs are a component of that. So it's been interesting for us to see that change happening in retail, auto, and other markets, where we're seeing them reduce their circulation for catalog and spending more on self-mail so they can get in the mailboxes more often and be in front of people. So we've actually seen our clients engage more from a print perspective. We're just curious what you guys are seeing as we've talked a lot about digital and technology, but print's a component of this as well. What are you hearing and seeing from your clients?
I kind of along with COVID fatigue is something that Joe alluded to, and I think there's a little bit of digital fatigue. And so having something physical that you can hold in your hands that's different from what looks like your office every day and your house every day, because we're all stuck in them, I think there's a lot to be said for it. And obviously you want to do what works, but if email isn't working, it might be time to lean in a little bit more into direct mail and other kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 3 data points. First one is there was a study about case study about a little over a year ago where a major high-end apparel brand stopped doing direct mail for a quarter, and they had the worst performing quarter in the previous 2-3 years. They lost millions of dollars. So that's case study number one. The second case study shows that significant use of direct mail, especially now with COVID, for one segment, millennials. Millennials, who everyone thinks live and breathe digital, they do, but millennials absolutely love direct mail. You can touch it. You know, they in the past have never been, you know, big consumer, but right now millennials and direct mail is, if you're marketing to millennials, good edgy direct mail with great offers, home run, absolute home run. And then when I look at our
personalize this too, Joe, the ability to personalize to the millennials, I'm sure is important.
Yeah, highly personal. Well, anytime I speak direct mail, I'm thinking not every door direct. I'm thinking highly personalized and optimized offers, right? As you know from working together. But having said that, and then, you know, personalized and edgy for the millennials. And then when I look at our customers around the globe with COVID, there's no question, digital overload. So direct mail across our top companies like Sandy and others has gone just like this over the last year. And so, you know, those that are using it done properly, highly personalized, the right offers, driving to a landing page with something of value, are seeing great results, high conversion levels.
Hey, Joe, really quick. Somebody just asked, did the hotel do the right thing by you with your points?
Not yet. And personally, I'm so darn busy with work with like 90-hour work weeks because our customers are amazing and they're growing through COVID. And my mom, she's in a good place now. I only have to go over her every day and make sure she takes her meds, etc. I haven't had the time to reach back out to them. I've spent like months communicating and still no resolution. But you know me, I'm a bulldog. I'm not going to let it go. And, you know, I don't want to play my social media card and start to blast them across LinkedIn and Facebook. But I hope we can resolve it.
Now, thank you for sending this because I was not looking at QA. So thank you for sending. We can address these. So a couple of questions going back to QR codes. What about QR codes on direct mail cards? Company is looking to use that for their referral campaign. What have you guys seen from the QR codes on DM?
Yeah, well, we're seeing a lot of them there. You know, if they've got a specific, you know, use case and what they've done in the past, you know, I'd love to look at it, you know, because how you create that DM piece and how you position the QR code and do you have conflicting points of response? I'll give you an example. Often we have untrained professionals that'll put a direct mail piece out there. They'll have a website there that have an 800 number, and they may have a Pearl on there, and they may have the QR code. The most successful programs direct to only one location. So the Pearl or the QR code is driving to that personalized landing page that is very specific to the person, rather than having those conflicting channels where here's the website or an 800 number. So like to see the piece, but when I speak in terms of QR codes, they are highly personalized. They're tied to a personalized site that has something of value to offer them.
That's what I was just about to ask you. You mentioned the personalized site. So is that how people are usually using the QR codes to drive to a personalized landing, or are they using it to drive to the website?
It depends on the use case. Yeah, there's some that, you know, the QR code is going directly to, you know, a particular site or form of interest. And then there's the landing page. Depends on if B2B, B2C, you know, and what their intent is. Because I'm speaking of my reference not only for a loyalty program and B2C, but also the B2B component as well.
To your point, that talking about using it for a referral campaign, the QR code could drive them directly to a, you know, referral page. In this instance. Okay,
absolutely.
Great. Any more questions on that? Just pop us a note. The other question that came, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, real quick. When we think in terms of referral programs, so any of you that are doing loyalty programs, I've got a use case for a couple companies where we created an Amazon gift card workflow that for a friend, and when you clicked on the link and you gave a friend, then you automatically got an Amazon gift card. And it's an automated process, pre-loaded funds, really, really effective. So when you think in terms of referral programs, there's some really nifty technology add-ons that can help you get even better results.
Sandra, anything to add from your perspective?
No, I think obviously you want to think through, if it's a QR code, what the use case is, and do you have a really good reason for it? Is the landing page Perl really long and really difficult, and it's printed on a website? Then I think it's, a perfect application is to use a QR code when you have that kind of thing going.
The other question that came up, Google is cutting down on cookies and pixels. How will that impact digital targeting programs?
Great question. And Google, Apple, state of California, the list is only beginning. So obviously, there's a good thought process behind that. But as technologists, we have to enable companies to connect with their target audience. So while cookies may disappear, another widget will appear that will enable us to stay connected with our target audience, whether they be prospects, loyal customers, or any other bucket. So I would say that there's a little more time before you have to flip the switch, but trust me, there will be a technology solution to that challenge.
Yeah, Jeff, I wouldn't mind if you did another poll. I'm curious because I made a note here to bring up direct mail retargeting, which we were talking a lot about with customers pre-COVID. That conversation slowed down a bit, but to this question, was curious how many people on the line might be considering using direct mail retargeting. Again, talking about personalization, timeliness, the right message, that type of thing. So we'd be curious there. Sandra, any other thoughts on the impact of all of the technology changes with the search engines?
Oh, it's the same story, different day. They keep us on our toes and keep us all in business. And retailers, brands need smart people like the folks on this webinar that can keep up with that kind of thing. I do see an application for CRM retargeting, especially in light of loyalty. And this is where you upload your email list, and rather than finding lookalikes, there are a couple of providers out there that will actually target that individual, and that can be a great way to just reignite the person, reinvite them back to your store, help them remember that they used to be a great shopper of yours, and it's just something that I'm seeing a little bit more of these days.
You brought up CRM, which is the first time we've said that word today, which is odd. But one of the other things we wanted to talk about, the marketing tech stack is a key comment that I hear a lot of our clients talking about, and just kind of the overwhelming, how do we get this utilized and how do we utilize it best? What are you guys seeing on things to consider when people are talking about making big investments on marketing platforms to help execute these campaigns that we're talking about? Where are you seeing best practices, or where you might see people having a miss when it's coming to executing those?
I'll jump in first, Joe. What definitely, I would say to everyone that everyone feels your pain with your tech stack, and having disparate databases that don't talk to one another easily, and having to involve IT. That's kind of a common theme across every retailer I speak with. I think the biggest piece that often I see missing is a failure at the very beginning of the process, prior to purchasing anything new and shiny, to really be very detailed with the requirements that you need. Putting together that detailed list that then can inform your RFP process, inform scripted demonstrations of the tool to make sure that it's actually doing what they say they do, and all of that. And it just helps cut down on aggravation later.
Joe, anything to add?
Yeah, that's a big topic. And we could talk for days and weeks on that. First of all, on the Google, Apple point and cookies, interestingly, it would be a nice world if, when they go down that path, if they would stop all the behind the scenes collection of information that they have on all of us. So it's kind of an interesting play there that we could talk about there. But having said that, technology is unbelievable when planned for and implemented properly and resourced from staff that can actually use it. Not all companies, not all technologies are created equal. I can't tell you how many companies I am invited into to try to help. They've made major hundreds of thousands of dollars on a tech stack, yet they're using it as nothing more than a glorified email platform. Shame on them. In those types of situations, we never try to replace it. We always try to augment it with where the gaps are. So my point is, if you have gaps and you're missing areas of opportunity in this world where your customers are always on and always connected, let's identify those gaps. And whether you find a partner from a technology standpoint that can fill that gap without major investment and help you achieve your objectives, we always want to start with the end in mind and deliver that. Or you might find an agency that can help work within the different tech stacks and help you solve some of your problems. So there's all sorts of great solutions. But again, before you hire anyone, you want to make sure that they can deliver the goods. As Sandra said, make sure that you see proof of concept and that they have other like-type customers. Because technology, when used properly, what it's supposed to do is make your life easier. You know, you have these wonderful targeted, you've got, instead of having 10 different silos of data, you have one. You're executing a strategy against that one database across the different profiles and personas of your target audience. And the technology does all the heavy lifting. If Joe does this, then we're going to do this. If Betsy does this, we're going to do this. If Sandra does this, we're going to do this. And the technology does all the heavy lifting when it's designed and implemented properly. So, I'm happy to answer any tech questions for anyone without ever talking to you about our technology. I won't, but you need people who live and breathe this 24/7 to help guide you through it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would I have to take an opportunity to talk to specifically. We've had more and more of our customers starting to utilize Marketing Cloud within Salesforce, and most of those teams using Journey Builder and Marketing Cloud, to your point, Joe, have been using them as strictly email, SMS, maybe call center type of executions. Yep. And direct mail, as we've talked about, is a key component to these communication channels, and they've never had an outlet to be able to do that within Journey Builder and Marketing Cloud. So we had so many customers coming to us asking us for it that we actually developed and are releasing an app in the marketplace in Salesforce or the App Exchange specifically to support direct mail within those journeys. And are doing that some specific customer ask, but also releasing that publicly. But it was a huge miss, right? I mean, just things that are core components of what marketers are doing today. And for that to not be part of the tech stack was interesting, but excited for us to be able to bring that solution. Now, just to your point about being able to talk tech, and, we've offered with many of our customers, because everybody's so limited in resources, for us to even come in and help their teams help execute and do any of the builds that our teams might be able to support as well. And I think all of us are kind of finding ourselves trying to help our customers as much as we can utilize the tools like they intended with limited resources on the client side. So
many of those companies that have invested in those stacks have really very little direct mail usage for a reason, yet they're missing a huge area of opportunity, especially in today's world of leveraging highly optimized, personalized direct mail. So we have a lot of customers that lean on us for that particular reason.
Yeah, we're excited to roll that out. So we've got about 15 minutes. I wanted to speak to, I know that we do have a few customers on the call today that have just recently kicked off a loyalty program or have been contemplating. Even in 2020, they were actually contemplating starting a loyalty program, and that got sidetracked, obviously. So just for those on the call that might be just getting ready to kick off, or they truly are rethinking and relaunching something, what are those key things that you would give advice to be thinking about as you're relaunching or starting from scratch a loyalty program?
I think initially spreading the net very wide in terms of developing a list of just raw benefits. Talking to store managers, talking to other customer facing individuals, along with maybe key stakeholders at corporate, to develop this big list. And then having some sort of research component that allows you to run them by customers and help give you some of the levers to understand what the potential engagement for each individual benefit might be, or combination of benefits might be. That helps you later when you build out a robust business case of justifying the program to your CFO. It helps with, your CEO changes to a new CEO and they don't believe in the program. You have a business case to show, yes, we know that margins are going to be slightly lower, for instance, with members of the loyalty program versus those that aren't members, but they also shop with us two extra times a year. And get that buy-in in a way that your CFO and your CEO will appreciate.
Yeah, great answer. Lifetime value. So many companies don't know the lifetime value of their customers. So that's a great place to start, like Sandra said. I would also say, start with the end in mind. So where do we want that program? What do we want it to look like? Define all those milestone points, but you don't eat the elephant in one bite. You got to start slow and have nice, achievable milestones of the best high value points of opportunity coming out of the gate, because it does take time. It always takes longer than you always planned because there's a lot of moving parts. And the data is not always as good as you'd like it to be, or you may not be using it as appropriately, and you could do a better job in those areas. So start with the end in mind. So if you do have a new CEO, you can define what the vision is and what the long-term return on investment is going to be, but set realistic milestones. It always takes longer than you anticipated. And also get out of your box, do some new things. Let me give you an example. We've got a Red Cross, believe it or not. That's a not-for-profit. They do amazing work. But you would never think that the Red Cross folks are thinking in terms of a loyalty program. Yet they created one of the most innovative loyalty programs to thank their most active donors for their participation, where you click on the link, you go to your personal site, and guess what? If you're this tier donor, you have 3 gifts you could select that they're giving you. And then if you're mid-sized, 3 larger gifts. And if you're at the top donor level, 3 other gifts. Now, how many not-for-profits are giving gifts to their top donors in a very innovative way? And that's how you build and deepen that donor relationship. Or if you're on the retail side, again, really innovative programs like that will win the day.
Also, I'd add, the benefits don't have to always cost something. There's hard benefits that are discount oriented, or you earn so many points and you get a $5 certificate or whatever that might be. But then there's soft benefits, and some of the most powerful are recognition and just having a handling procedure at the point of sale that, when a VIP or an Uber VIP, walks up and there's a way to identify them, saying thank you for your business, thank you so much for coming into the store and being one of our VIPs, carries a lot of weight. And it's one of the things that customers say again and again that they most appreciate. You can be creative too. One of the most creative benefits I ever saw was as part of the loyalty program. It was an East Coast chain of grocery stores that had gas on site. They had fuel on site. And their fuel costs, basically, they had a margin that sat on top of the fuel cost. And so if the cost of gas went up, they were going to make the same amount of money in their margin. And so as a member of the loyalty program, you could sign up for a push text message, and you would be alerted 3 hours before the gas price went up. Didn't cost that retailer really anything other than the push text messages. And it had huge impact. It was the most favorite benefit of loyalty members year over year. And it really, something that got other people involved in the loyalty program as well. So don't be afraid to think out of the box and maybe leverage some things that you wouldn't have thought of.
So true.
It brings up a good point. And it's actually kind of one of the last questions, where you might be launching or thinking about starting something new and having a little trepidation around the success rate of that and being able to track the attribution. And and being able to have that conversation with your CEO and CFO about success to be able to keep the loyalty programs going. Any suggestions there to help and to think about whenever you're launching and starting to track results?
Obviously the gold standard, but it isn't always doable, is to have a test and control group. So, sometimes you can do that in a geographic area that might be very similar to everybody else. That's difficult though, because usually we have national chains with big footprints, and people learn. They find out there's a loyalty program in Dallas, but not in Denver, for instance. The other is to track members versus non-members, but do it in a smart way and look at the members that spend a certain amount of money and compare them to the non-members that also spend that same level of money, and just see year over year, are they changing? What's the impact of the program that way? Other KPIs are like penetration of your overall base. So you have $100 million in sales, to go low, and 65% of that is loyalty members, and watching that to make sure that we're getting enough loyalty members into the pipeline, because that usually means you're tracking those loyalty members' data and what they're buying, their transactions, and that has other impact on the rest of the business, because you can cross-pollinate that data and the insights that come from it to other parts of the business and make smarter buying decisions, better store locating decisions, etc. So KPIs, reward redemption would be another one. And looking at, are we creating an incremental sale when a customer comes in with a reward? In some retail categories, usually more like fashion, it's almost a one-on-one. Every reward brings an extra visit. In others like grocery, it can be, every third visit is an incremental visit based on that reward being in the basket. So, watching those kinds of KPIs can definitely help you continue to know that the program is working, or that whether it needs help, as well as report back up to senior management.
So anything to add?
Yeah, a couple of points. Great points, all of them, Sandra. I think tracking and measurement is one of the failure points for a lot of organizations. They set it up and forget about it, and you need to continuously be checking that. You need to set realistic expectations on what the outcomes and long-term program benefits will be. The other thing is, likewise, I see a lot of programs that get set up and we never enhance them. We never make course corrections. And that's because we really don't have our finger on the pulse of, do our members really love what we're doing? I mean, they should love what you're doing. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing it, because you're spending time, resources, money doing it. So survey, check with your community and find out what you can do to improve it. And, the only way to do that is to check with them and ask, what's the number one thing you would change? I just recently took a loyalty program survey. Kudos to that organization. The only downside to it was there were so many darn questions that it became an irritant to me by the time I was done with it. And you don't want anything you're doing with your best customers to ever be an irritant. You want them to go, oh, they're asking, and here's the number one thing I would change. Because let's face it, if you get all that data, at the end of the day, you're not going to change 20 things. You're going to maybe change one or two to enhance the overall program for the benefit of all members. So be very cautionary on that area.
I just had a thought, and now I missed it because I was looking at a question. I know. Sandra, what would you say, just from you working with clients over a period of time, from a launch to a relaunch, if you will, how frequently would you recommend people do what Joe's just recommended, and survey and check in and maybe completely rethink?
Well, obviously you have your program KPIs, and if you start to see that redemption is going down of rewards, that your penetration is decreasing rather than increasing in terms of percent of sales, or member sales to overall sales, those are big warning signs that you need to do something. I think now I would relook at your program now in the light of what we've all been through over the last 12 months almost, that make sure that you're still in the same business, that you still have the same customers. You may have new customers that you didn't have before, and you might want to rethink loyalty. or at least some benefits that might be attractive to the new customers that are that aren't the same as the ones that you had before. A lot of times, retailers forget to look at aspirational segments. So you might be a women's retailer that's attracting a 50-something-year-old woman, and you're aging out slowly. Each year, your age goes up a little bit more. You need to be attracting those new and younger customers. So do you have a benefit or set of benefits that attracts those aspirational customers who may be just a small percentage of your overall member base, but could be something that could help draw more of that segment into your program and into your stores?
It actually, you kind of addressed, actually, Jeff sent a question in saying that, thinking about and understanding who your customer is now, kind of post-COVID versus who it was, and how to rethink that, and changes that you might make in regards to that. So,
one other suggestion, I was just thinking of casinos. Haven't been in one since a year ago, but interestingly, they have some periods like the summer months that sometimes are very troublesome. We have a number of large casinos we do work with, and what we found was tactically running very, very strong programs during those slower periods, loyalty programs. And I'm thinking one July, we generate over $2 million in increased play from their entire loyalty group. So again, those very targeted, slower periods, be innovative, make some great program offers. So that's another opportunity for that pivot. When you see something KPI Sandra was talking about, when you see something dropping off badly, best action is a reaction, of a new program enhancement.
Great. So we have a few minutes here. I would love to take an opportunity to just let anybody that's attending kind of an opportunity to pose any questions, anything we may not have covered that you had hoped you would hear about today. Please share those with us.
I thought there was one attendee that had sent a question around loyalty fraud.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yeah. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can at least start that. That's a whole webinar unto itself. But if you haven't already, I would create a cross-functional team of people to address this. Surprisingly, and I think I mentioned this before, because people are more unguarded with their passwords, make simple passwords that they use across multiple platforms. Loyalty fraud is really on the rise, and it accounts for $31 billion of redeemed points that were redeemed by people other than the actual member. So creating that cross-functional team of people like store ops, maybe a couple of store managers even, loss prevention, the loyalty team, your data team, a wide swath of people so that you can get lots of brains in the same room. I think that you have to kind of put your different hats on, and first you have to think like a hacker. So are we requiring strong passwords from members? Are we requiring them at all? How easy is it for somebody to pick up my information at the point of sale just by looking over my shoulder? Thinking through that kind of thing. Looking at members and member policies. So sometimes there are members that try to game the system, and I'm going to join your program 5 times under 5 different emails and names so that I can get the bonus reward that you give at the beginning. And so having some things in place to keep that at bay is obviously good. And then of course store associates or other employees. So having flags in place to make sure that a store associate isn't ringing in their number instead of the customer's number at point of sale. Looking for alerts that show that maybe a big amount of points has been moved from one account to the other. So there's a lot there. We don't have really time to go into it, but kind of using that team to help you think through the customer journey and where are the vulnerability points within that journey. Specifically, the loyalty customer journey can help you identify those potential leaky buckets and places where you can get stung by a bad actor.
Thank you. We had one question that came in at the end. Any recommendations when the purchase frequency is only a few times a year? So maybe those bigger ticket item loyalty programs. Have you worked with customers, Sandra, where they're working in that environment versus high frequency purchase?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think, one key is to stay top of mind without being obnoxious. So utilizing direct mail, email, et cetera, to stay top of mind. A lot of times people forget to include loyalty information in your basic direct mailer. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but having a standing section that describes the basic value proposition of your program helps remind that customer, hey, I have a reason to consolidate my category purchases with retailer X. And so that can help you swipe a visit from a competitor over to you just by simply reminding them. I think you may not be able to focus so much on frequency. There may be just kind of a terminal limit to how frequent somebody can shop you, but maybe you're looking at more of how can we grow that basket size, and do we have something in our program that if that one transaction goes over a certain level, maybe they get something. So thinking through, how do we just kind of work all angles to maximize that opportunity to get sales and profits from that customer and drive them into the store or onto your website is definitely something I would be thinking through.
So we've come to time. Jeff, maybe we can wrap up and share that we are going to be sending out some follow-up information. Sandra actually mentioned at the very top of the call a survey that they had done in 2020 and have just compiled results from 2021 that they'll be releasing. So we are planning to make that available to everybody that joined today as a follow-up, and we'll send some additional information in regards to some of the topics we discussed today. Jeff, anything else as we wrap up to let the attendees be aware of?
No, just basically reiterating that we're gonna post everything on LinkedIn. I'll put a link to our website blog article tomorrow. It'll link to our recap video on YouTube in case you missed certain portions of this, or you want to forward it over to somebody else, coworker that missed it. We're also going to link back to some resources that Joe and Sandra are going to give us access to their websites, so you guys can go in and investigate, their organizations and what they have to offer as well. So.
And I also, there were several topics that we talked about today that said we could have a whole nother webinar about this. So for those clients on the call, please email us if there are topics that are hot buttons within your organizations that you would love for us to bring thought leaders onto a panel like this and talk through again. We love having these engagements. So any ideas that you guys have that would be helpful to talk about and discuss, please bring that forward to us and we'll work on putting something else together. To Sandra and Joe, thank you again so much for all of your help and insights. We'll obviously share their contact information as well if you guys have any questions that you'd like to speak to them directly about. But thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll hopefully all talk soon and see each other in person soon. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.